All right. It's that time. It's time for Beyond Sight and Sound. Let's do this.
Hey boys and girls, we are going to talk about S&W shooters and prospectors. What is S&W shooters and prospectors?
We at S&W Shooters and Prospectors help people find treasure.
Did you say treasure?
Yes, treasure. Just listen to this amazing review from our happy customer, Jackie Sparrow.
Chocolate ship-shape and a pleasure to deal with. I was able to buy everything that I needed at prices that were shillings less than others. I found my 9 pieces of 8 in no time. Savvy?
I know you're asking yourself, why should I shop at S&W Shooter and Prospectors?
Chuck Smalley has over 45 years of metal detecting experience. He works with each customer one-on-one to customize their setup to match their skill level.
So if you always dreamt of being a pirate, contact Chuck at S&W Shooters and Prospectors and he'll take a great deal for you.
iPads and rum not included.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, we're back. We're live. This time, seemingly without a hitch. Not sure what brings such fortuitous good fortune. Must be Marc. Let's check. Yeah, it looks like the chat is working well. Man, they're all dropping in. Good. Good to see. All right. Back to the other screen here. Let's come over here. We'll get Chuck in. How's it going, Chuck?
Everybody, how goes it? Oh my God, Josh, we got Swansea in here tonight.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I had quite the long conversation with Swansea about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, something like that. Blast from the past. Told him, said, I'm not sure if I had a heart attack or what. Let's hope neither of us have. But boy, people are going to be shocked when you drop into the chat.
Yeah, they are. Hey, Janet's in there. Tom, yeah. Dave Riley, how you doing, buddy? Barb's in the house. We got the whole crew. Frankie Juarez. They're glad to see maybe Mr. Hoover.
I'm sure there's a number of them in there that are happy to see us back in.
So that's pretty cool. So the house is filling up. We ought to have a good show, and words of wisdom out of Mr. Marc Hoover.
Well, he's always out on the adventure. So hopefully everybody in the chat's giving Swansea a nice warm welcome back. And we're certainly glad to see him back, too.
Yep.
So welcome aboard, Swansea. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has.
A little bit, but he's glad to be back.
Yep. So we've got quite a good show lined up for you. I'll let Josh get in there and do the intros, and we'll have some fun. We'll be talking about a lot of things. Marc always has some great tips and travels and that kind of stuff. So,
right, yeah. Well, you know what he likes to say: "Have adventure, will travel."
Yeah, Phil, turn the phone around, buddy. I'll be on the right side then. He said, "No, there's no left in my future unless I drive in NASCAR."
He's going to get all sorts confused then, because the screens are going to change around again here when I bring Marc in.
Yep. I just dropped over on the right side to pass everybody.
There you go. All right. Well, let's get Marc in here as well. And there he is. How is it going, Mr. Hoover?
I'm doing well, Josh and Chuck. Thanks for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it. First of all, I want to say, Chuck, I love that sign behind you.
Yeah, there. Most everybody did, but there were a few that didn't like it. But basically, okay.
Yeah. Well, not everybody's gonna like it, but hey. So I think they voted for change, and I got to say, well, first of all, thanks for having me tonight. I was thinking about it. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I said, by all means, we've missed you, Mr. Hoover.
Well, I appreciate that. I was just going to say, as I was watching the chat, and I'm not in the chat, so I am reading the chat. I'm just not in there. So if somebody sends me a message, I can respond on here. But as I was watching the chat, Chuck and Josh, it's interesting. It felt like old home week. I feel more comfortable here than just about anywhere else in the metal detecting world. I really do. I feel like these are all my friends.
Well, if memory serves me correctly, this was the first show you ran across in terms of metal detecting shows.
Right.
It is. And what's interesting about that is the first four people that I met. Well, I met Bill Marsh and Brandon and Barb all on this show. And then I met all of them at this in Ohio at this place called Foo Fest, which was probably the most interesting event I've ever gone to. And it's gone uphill ever since then. But I felt like we made some really good friendships. And, I see Barb in here, Bill Marsh is in here. And I was shocked when I saw that Brandon was in here. I feel like Brandon is my long lost nephew. I really do. Brandon, it's great to see you in. I'm glad you were here tonight.
See, Swansea, it's like you never even left.
Nope. And we got a new one to me, 5 Mile Relic Hunter. Welcome.
So, that's awesome. And I see all the names like Frank and Bill Hayes and Frank Juarez, just and the Bortners, Shannon, Phil. I mean, everybody's been so kind to me. And when I come up to Ohio or Illinois, it's always a great time being with everybody up there.
Well, the question already came up. Shannon wants to know if you're coming to swing in the summer.
Well, you and I talked about that, Chuck, and I'm committed now to go to Detecting the Heartland. So anybody on here that's going to be there, made the flight reservations today for Gail and I to be there, and we're going to look at swinging in the summer in June and see if we can make that as well. So
I'm hoping you can.
And I
A
appreciate
lot of people that want to see you and Gary.
Yeah, we'd love to be there. And I talked to Gary about that. So we're going to put that on our calendar.
Yeah, we'd love to have you up there and hang out with us on the Mississippi River. And you're right below a lock and dam, and you're right next to the westernmost battle of the War of 1812. So
yeah, and I got to tell you, Mark, you got to bring your camera. It sounds like the view is spectacular.
Pretty place.
So I will. And somebody asked if I was going to the Show Me hunt, 5 Mile Relic Hunter. And I'm sure that I've met them, but I don't know who that is for sure. But the answer to that question is yes. Gail and I are going to the Show Me hunt in Missouri. And Adventures in History, we're actually a sponsor of that event. We went there last year. Phenomenal, great time. It's one of the best first annual hunts that I've ever been to. And they do a great job. So Mitch Barks and his wife and the whole team, they do a great job. So we're planning on being there this year.
Outstanding. And I gotta say too, for you being down there in Florida and me being up in Ohio, we sure do seem to bump into one another an awful lot in Illinois.
We do, and that's a great place to do it. And I don't see my club as much as you would think that I would, being here in Florida, because I'm always traveling or I'm always doing something else. But I've been kind of nicknamed the ambassador to the industry by the people in my own club. So when I get a chance to see them, it's always a good time coming back.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Definitely. And, well, speaking of your club, you guys have the Sunshine Relic Hunt coming up too, don't you?
We do. There's 2 hunts coming up here in Florida. Real quick. We have the Treasure Coast Archaeological Society hunt coming up on March 8th. So that'll be the first one. So that's only in 2 weekends. And what's interesting about that is, for me, last year Gary and I were sponsors. And this year I'm not going to be a sponsor because I met a young man who's a friend of my son who's never metal detected. And I started teaching him how to metal detect. And he's never been to an event. He doesn't own a metal detector, doesn't own anything. And I've committed to pick him up Saturday morning and take him to that event and just kind of shepherd him through that event. I'm going to let him use my detectors, all my equipment. Going to get him an entry ticket into the event. So I'm going to take a newbie basically through the TCAS event for the day. And that's where Terry Shannon will be there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited about taking a newbie through.
Cool. That's fun.
And then our hunt is on April 8th, a month later. I think that's the date of it. And we've got an entirely brand new board of people. New president, new vice president, all new board who are putting it on. And what's interesting about that is our new president. Well, we have one of the guys in our club was out metal detecting, and he ran into somebody. and they started talking about metal detecting. And the guy that he ran into, his name's Randy. Well, and Randy said, "Well, you don't know this, but I was your club president 30 years ago in 1995. I said, "Really?" He said, "Well, why don't you come back?" Well, Randy came back about 6 months ago, and now he's now was voted the new president, the new old president. He's now the new president of our club. So Randy is back and running the club.
Cool.
And he never saw it coming.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's kind of like Swansea Searcher, all of us, you may leave for a certain period of time, but, if it's in your DNA, you're going to come back.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I'll mention that, Barb. Marc is one of our best supporters for the kids on the Great Metal Detecting Giveaway for Kid 515 there at Christmas time.
Well, I love the fact that Barb puts that on, and everybody that supports it. What Gail and I do is we're like elves. We find coins, and one year we put holes in all the Indian head pennies and made them so that you could wear them. And so, Barb, I appreciate that. I love the fact that we can just send all the stuff to you and let you give it out to all the kids, because I know they have a good time doing that.
Yep. That's a lot of fun. So.
Yep. And speaking of events, obviously Chicago Dig Fest has dropped their flyer for September, so people can find that over on the Illinois Metal Detecting Association Facebook group, the Beyond Sight and Sound page, the Chicago Dig Fest page, or they can stay tuned here for more details with that. And as far as Florida goes, in July, we've got the Treasure Hunters Cookout coming again.
Now, that's going to be in April, unless it's a different Treasure Hunters Cookout.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I think you're right.
Treasure Hunters Cookout is always the last weekend in April in Sebastian. So anybody that wants to go look on Facebook for that and wants to come down, that's a great time to come down to Florida, except that the beaches are all messed up right now. But anybody that comes down, you meet some amazing people going to that event.
Yeah. Recently, Randy and I had been doing quite a bit of catching up, and we had a number of dates that we were talking about, and I got them twisted around.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's like April. I want to say like April 28th is the Treasure Hunters Cookout. But it's funny. I went through my calendar and did it all, and I saw the Greg Papalo's in, and he reminded me. Of course, we've sponsored. We've been a part of the Florida Hunt events, and just a great time there with all the people there supporting Camp Freedom and all of our military. Of course, this year, and I'm sure you guys have probably talked about it, but this year it's going to be in Meridian, Mississippi at a new camp that they purchased.
Yes, sir.
And we are going to get, I don't know if you guys know who Murray Crow is. Murray Crow is on the show Duck Family Treasures with what's the last name?
Robinsons.
Yeah, the Robinson family. So he's on that show, but he's been metal detecting for over 50 years. So he's kind of the expert on the show. Those guys are relatively new metal, and they're sponsored by Garrett. But Murray has committed to come over to Meridian, Mississippi, and you never know who might show up. We're looking at talking to some other people about coming over, so we're pretty excited about that. And again, supporting Camp Freedom. So we're doing that. And speaking of Chicago, something interesting happened last year, and I was telling Alan about it, and Alan asked me if I would come and speak at the Chicago event. Last year, I presented the 1715 Fleet story out in Utah at an event that I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes. But Alan asked me if I would come to Chicago and share that story on the 1715. And of course, that's tied into the article that I wrote for American Digger on Jimmy Crossbones and his treasure that he found, a few years ago. So I went ahead and just did all the research on the 1715 fleet and tie his story into the history of, why all that treasure was there. So I'm going to do that in Chicago at that event.
Nice.
Other than that, Josh and Chuck, I don't have anything going on. I see Chuck got bored and left.
Well, Chuck sometimes gets pulled away. That's the way it goes, though. But the guys really ought to get a kick out of that.
Interrupt you.
They know you've always got some stories to share.
All right, so I got some stories. You want to hear a story?
All right.
So, Chuck, Josh, have y'all ever heard of an event called The Gathering in Utah?
No. No, I have not.
Vaguely? Okay, so Terry Carter.
Yeah.
Okay, so Terry Carter now has over 100,000. He just hit 100,000 on his YouTube channel. But last year he called me and he said, "Hey, I was wondering if you could help me out with something." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, this is our 25th, and this is last year." He said, "This is our 25th anniversary of The Gathering. And we've never had a metal detecting manufacturer come out and participate. And it's a treasure hunting event. Could you help us get a manufacturer out there?" And I said, "Sure, that shouldn't be that difficult to do. How many people do you have coming to the event?" 600. 600? Are you kidding me? Anyway, so if you know anything about Utah, that area, northern Utah, the Uinta Mountains, it's really big on UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, things like that. And the event was not too far from where Skinwalker Ranch is. In fact, when they invited us out, they said, "Hey, if you want to come out early, you can camp on the ranch right next to Skinwalker Ranch, and you might see some anomalous activity." And we're gonna have UFO people there. We're gonna have Bigfoot hunters there, and we're gonna have treasure hunters there. And so, and they so it's all set up for guest speakers and all of that. Well, that's how I ended up speaking on the 1715 fleet, because they heard about my story and wanted me to tell about the 1715 fleet and the Jimmy Crossbones story. So I did that. And Gary Penta came with me and brought some of his unique miniature creations, which was really cool. But what happened was we had some difficulty getting a manufacturer, and I didn't think it would be that hard, but we ended up getting Fisher was the sponsor for the event. And it was incredible. I mean, Gary and I are like, man, we have got to go back next year. But we met some amazing people. We heard some great stories, met lots of treasure hunters. Got invited. I'm sorry?
What time of year, Mark?
That was in August. And we hooked up with, we got Casey Dittman from Excalibur Shovels came out and had his booth set up to show all of his shovels. So Casey lives in Utah, not far from there. So Casey invited Gary and I to go hunting with him. So we did we did some metal detecting at one of the old ghost towns out there in Utah. Well, actually, it was in Wyoming. It's right on the corner of Wyoming, southwest corner of Wyoming. So we did some metal detecting there with Casey, and that was a lot of fun. We enjoyed that. And yeah, some of the stories you hear are just crazy. They had Dan Dillman there from Montezuma's, looking for Montezuma's treasure. He's on a reality TV show, and heard some interesting stories about Bigfoot and UFOs and things like that. And we didn't make it out early enough to go camping on that ranch, but this year we're planning on going out a couple of days early so that we can participate a little bit more.
Go ahead.
It could be well worth your time, especially, as I'm sure you know, the given past of the area there, and especially the past of Skinwalker Ranch, as well as the amount of UAP activity. Interesting area, that's all I can say.
Well, I'm an avid watch. I mean, I watch all the Skinwalker Ranch, all the Blind Fog Ranch shows. So I'm keenly interested in that. I have my own theories on all of that, but
Right.
It was very interesting to talk to a lot of the different folks there. And there was a story. Well, let me back up a second. Let me tell you about the manufacturers. I think I'm not going to name names other than to say that I was delighted that First Texas stepped up to the plate, and Fisher did the sponsorship. But we had one manufacturer said, well, we're not going to go because they might talk about UFOs and Bigfoot. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Over 500 or 600 people. You don't think they metal detect also?
Right.
And
I would not let that be a reason to scare off a sponsor. I mean, given the region and the past of the region, it comes with the territory. You're just going to have to deal with it and stay a little open-minded.
Well, I don't understand why they wouldn't go to that. And I've never watched the TV shows. Generally, I don't have time. Bigfoot, I don't know. UFOs, if you think we're the only ones out in all that we've got out here, and all I'll tell you is two words, and this came from my dad, Foo Fighters. He was...
That was exactly what you're talking about.
World War II, B-17s, and he said, we never talked about them. You got a Section 8, or you got put elsewhere. We just shut up, pilots did, but we saw them all the time. In amongst their flights. And that was in the Aleutians.
And that was a common occurrence.
Yep.
The sky is a awfully big place.
I totally
Chuck,
believe in it. We aren't the only ones, whether it's wormholes, interdimensional, whatever, something's going on.
Well, when you look at Skinwalker Ranch, it's, and of course they have some really credentialed people working on that show.
yes, NASA, very accredited people.
NASA scientists and all. Whatever you want to call it, I'm not gonna use UFO. I mean, that's the term that people talk about. But from my observation, just observationally, whatever's going on, there's clearly anomalous interdimensional activity that's being observed. Now, whatever that is, we don't know. They've gotten about as close as anybody's ever gotten, but it's clearly interdimensional and it's anomalous activity. And anyway, but it was very interesting for us. We had a great time. Fisher stepped up to the plate. They did really well.
Cool.
Russ Balberoni, represents them, and we were thrilled. So I'm hoping that more people will go out. When we get the details on the event this coming year, we'll share that with you so you can share it on the show. We'd love to see more people come from the east out to the west, because what you really see is it's really completely different when you're looking for metal detecting out there. It's a lot more gold hunting, gold. And Chuck, you know all this, and so do you, Josh. It's more like, you're looking for gold, or
Gold, Indian artifacts literally laying on the surface of the ground. In Wyoming, I kind of like that area around Lander. You get over Atlantic City and South Pass City, and that what they call the Jack Morrill Wilderness. There's 2.5 million acres out there of nothing.
Beautiful, wide open land.
Yeah, and the people that introduced us to going around out there, they take us out to there's areas, and this is what they called it. They've never haired over. They were buffalo wallows. They always held water, and the buffaloes rolled in it. Nothing grows there today. They're just these huge depressions that are, in springtime, they hold water, but they also rolled in the dust and took us to areas up on high ridges when they were hunting buffalo. And you'd pick up church and teepee rings were still evident. The rocks hadn't been moved. They hadn't been bothered, and that type of thing. I love those areas.
We know, and that's the thing about Terry Carter. I mean, he's an incredible documenter. Documenting all of the various stories, and stories that people are still alive that he can't share those stories yet until they pass, because they found gold, they found gold bars or whatever. I'll tell you an interesting story that I heard. Now, I heard a lot of stories, but this one kind of blew me away. So I obviously can't name names, but there was a guy out there on BLM land. And of course, a lot of you know that's an area of high activity for the Church of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Of course, they carried gold, and they traveled that area a lot, and they settled that area. Well, one of the things that I did not know was they actually minted their own gold coins at one point in time. And there was a gentleman that was hunting on some land out there and actually came across a jar full of dirt, dug it out, started going through the jar, and there were Mormon coins, gold coins in this dirt. Now, what I've been told is they're extremely rare, which makes them even more valuable.
Yes, they are.
Very.
And so he took the jar, put it right back where it was at, buried it exactly the way it was, marked the site, knew exactly where it was, came back home, called an attorney, and said, "Hey, this is what I found. What do I need to do to stake a claim to it, or to get it, or whatever the case may be?" And the attorney got, some information. So I said, "Well, let me check it out for you, and I'll let you know." Didn't hear back. So he said, "Well, I'll just go back out there." Well, he went back out to that same site, and it was crawling with federal agents and church personnel. And he started walking up, and they said, "Well, where are you going?" And he said, "Well, I'm just walking through this area." And they said, "No, you're not. You need to turn around and go back." So he came back. They were all gone, and so was the jar of gold coins.
Yeah. Who would have thunk it?
Anyway, that's just one interesting story. But there's been, Terry, can tell you that there's been lots of treasure found out there. Of course, Terry's been on Oak Island and, told about some of the mines out there and stuff like that.
If you go into Wyoming and you go to South Pass City, it's next to a little bird called Atlantic City. They're 5 miles apart on a particular road, and it's a ghost town. And you pay a couple bucks and you can walk it. It's all been rebuilt. Men that did all the work and set it up and got it back to shape for the state of Wyoming, Tom Lindemeyer. He's written 3 books. He's a good friend of mine. We've prospected together a lot. But they ID'd the one building as being the butcher shop. And it had a cold room built, double layers on that. And they had archaeologists come in, and they were doing different things in different buildings. And Tom witnessed the archaeologists digging in the cold room, just taking a layer after layer. You know how they do it. And they hit cast iron, and they kept working. And there was a cast iron, I won't call it a skillet, more like a Dutch oven with the lid on it. They kept working around. They could hardly lift it. It was full of gold nugget.
Oh, my gosh.
Immediately, it was gone. State rep took it, gone. Tom says, I'm looking at probably 25 to 30 pounds of gold. State grabbed it and left. And that's documented out there because right in town, there's a mine that ran clear up into the 80s called the Clarissa. And it was actually robbed by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
I've heard that story.
Yeah. And I followed Butch and Sundance's trail. The money, or there's 16 2-pound ingots missing that Butch had. He got pinned in on the road between Atlantic City and South Pass City. But he got away, but he hastily buried him. There are photographs of him coming back after he was dead, hanging in several prominent places in Atlantic City, him standing with Teddy Roosevelt, him standing with some well-noted people. It was him. They've even ID'd him, but they don't want to change the history of it. He survived. He came back there several times looking for that gold.
Yeah, I've heard that several times.
That gold could be found.
Interesting, too, that he's pictured with Roosevelt, who was also a treasure hunter.
Yep.
I haven't seen that picture. I'd love to see that picture. I have to go look that up.
You know what? It's hanging in the Mercantile in Atlantic City. It's also hanging in, there's 2 places that's been blown up, and I've never seen it online or in a book. But that, and actually, the lady who took the picture on the one I saw, it was the original picture, put the names with an arrow up to each individual.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So it's there. Tom's an historian. Actually, the Antiques Roadshow and the History Channel would go to him for information. He's written 3 books, and these you can look up. One with another guy called I See By Your Outfit. Another one, Dry Bone, A History of Fort Fetterman. And the last one's on the Conestoga wagon. I can't remember the name. I've got a couple of his books. And heck of a prospector. He and I had claims out in the Jackson Road for about 6 years. A lot of fun. But that area is worth a visit. You want to go?
It really is. If you can go to something like the Gathering and then spend a couple extra days going all around there, you definitely worth the time to do that. And, you know, you might meet somebody that might be willing to, you know, take you out. Or I had people coming up to me saying, hey, you know, and I got calls after the event. I mean, there's a guy that claims he found several ships, large vessels in the Salt Flats. And that's very possible. You know, they would have to be ancient ships. So he claimed he found them. But anyway, well, that was that. I was going to tell you about something else. This is just a slightly off subject, but I want to tell you about it because it's interesting to me. I never knew about this, and I want to share the information. I found you guys know, I do adventures with my grandkids, and I encourage everybody to do that with their kids and their grandkids because we're not going to be around forever. And I want them to have memories. I want them to feel excited about going on adventures, and I want them to not fear doing that. So I do stuff with them. Well, one of the things that I've gotten my two grandsons involved in is a program called Trail Life USA. It's a Boy Scout alternative, and I won't go into all the details on it, but we're involved in that. We were told about this thing called Project Appleseed. And I don't know if anybody on here has ever heard of that, but it's phenomenal. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. And what it is they have all different kind of programs, but my grandson and I went to this Project Appleseed weekend event. And the weekend consisted of 2 days of learning how to shoot a rifle and all of the history. It was a history lesson on the Revolutionary War. All of the details of the Revolutionary War. And of course, we all hear about it. We hear about, how it started and all the things that I didn't know any of the details. I didn't know that the Revolutionary War started on April 19th, 1775. And all the things that led up to that date and the things that happened, the people that were killed, the men and women, our patriots who were involved in that. I didn't know any of their names. And if you think about it, next year is the 250th anniversary of, the founding of our country, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But on April 19th of this year is the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So the Project Appleseed has a group of volunteers, men and women, that come in and they spend half of the time sharing the stories of the Revolutionary War and the history therein. And then you spend the other half of the time learning how to shoot targets, at different yardage levels. And
Cool.
I've shot before, but my grandson never has. So the weekend was just a great experience, great adventure. You can look it up. It's called appleseedinfo.org, appleseedinfo.org. It's men, women, kids, girls, boys. So if that organization is in your area, I just highly recommend you take advantage of that. And some of the people who went with us, it was their third time going. So, and by the way, the main instructor of the course was Australian, who became a naturalized citizen 10 years ago for the U.S. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. Americans don't appreciate what you have the way a naturalized citizen who comes over here and has to go through the process to become a citizen. He says, I love that I'm an American citizen, and I appreciate what I had to do to become a citizen of America. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm sharing the history of the Revolutionary War, and he was our main instructor.
That's true. A lot of people very easily take it too much for granted.
I didn't start appreciating what we came from until my mom and my grandmother and an aunt did all the genealogical stuff in the early 80s and sat me down and my sisters and showed us the family tree, and they traveled to England and Scotland, going to all these places, and then how we tied in with the American Revolution, because we came to this country in 1698, 1696, and the appreciation that I have developed for it is amazing, because I didn't know that I had this lineage from the Scott English area to the U.S. after Cromwell ran us out, because we were all Knights Templars. And then the Hales, which I'm related to, came over. They were run out because it was Hale Castle that they ransacked in North Scotland. And my direct uncle was Nathan Hale.
You and I have talked about that. That's a phenomenal story. I love that, and of course, I think I mentioned to you that, my wife is a direct descendant of somebody that came over on the Mayflower. And what was ironic about that was her last name was Howland, Howland. She was a daughter of 11 generations of sons. So she still had the same name until she married me. And of course, we went up and visited Leighton Harrington on the 400th anniversary of the founding of Plymouth Plantation. And Leighton was just a phenomenal host for Gail and I. We went to the button dump and all that. But Leighton gave me some musket balls. And what was interesting about this gentleman from Australia who was teaching this class was I said, hey, do you know anything about the coinage of that time of the revolutionary times? And he said, no, actually, I don't. I actually had a 1778 2 real with me. I brought it because you never know when you might give it away. So I gave him a quick lesson on Spanish coinage. And I said, hey, whose coinage do you think we followed? The Spanish or the English? He said, I don't know. I said, well, we're not using pounds and pence.
That's right.
I said the quarter is 2 bits, and our 8 real is a silver dollar.
2 bits, 4 bits, a dollar, man.
He said I had no idea, so I gave him a history lesson on real quick. I gave him the 2 real, and I gave him a musket ball he could use for show and tell when he's doing the training for the Revolutionary War. So
cool.
That was my contribution for that event. But if anybody has the opportunity to take a younger person to go to that, that's something that I would highly encourage.
So you got to learn a few things too.
Yeah, we did, and I learned. By the way, Chuck, I know you. A lot of people on here are really good marksmen and all that. Not until the last few years have I had a gun and actually a handgun in my house. But one of the things I learned is not to use bifocals when you're using a rifle with a scope, because I was seeing two crosshairs in the scope. And so I just went back to just using regular safety glasses without any kind of.
I got to stop you just a second. The neighborhood just took a dump. KG's in the house, so be careful what you say.
Oh, my goodness.
Uh-oh.
He's already saying don't mess it up.
Welcome aboard, KG.
Hey, George. And I saw, by the way, I saw Tim Ildigger is in the house, and I saw Matt Howell join. So it's great to see them. And Matt's got a great event coming up. His is all sold out. But anyway, yeah, it's great to see them in there too. Yeah. So let me talk, with KG jumping in here, let me throw something out here, because you and I were talking about this, Chuck. I want to talk about can we talk about the vortex?
Let's chat about that. Fill us in, because I've got a couple. I haven't had time. I'm seeing all this stuff online, all the problematic stuff that's popped up, but then I'm seeing online the guys using are doing very well. So fill us in.
All right.
Yeah, I know George with his.
Yeah, so we were working with Steve Moore. When I say we, Gary Penton and Steve was gracious enough to give us a couple of vortexes, because they really wanted us to try to use them on the beach and give them some feedback. Right. So Gary and I got the original vortexes, and I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll tell you everything that I know. But when we got them, we went over to the beach, and there was some extraneous noise that shouldn't have been there, especially when you swing. And I'm left-handed, so when I swing to the left or swung to the left, was swing, swung, swing. When I went to the left, you hear this, woo, and I had to really lower the sensitivity to get rid of that. But anyway, I had a good conversation with Steve, and some other folks gave me some feedback. So they came out with some updates, and the latest update that I got was version 2.5. And Gail and I were on the beach all last week, and I was using the Vortex a lot. That thing is quiet as a church mouse on the beach now. I mean, when you're in the salt water, when you're on the wet sand, it is beautiful. They really got it fixed. Now, I've heard people say that with the V25 version 2.5 update, a couple of the machines, maybe more than a couple, have it for whatever reason, it caused it to just flake out or whatever the case may be. So they've taken care of that. Oh, so George says it's 2.7 now, so I need to update it. But anyway, the 2.5 works really well. And like I was telling you all, the beach is just absolutely terrible because of all the sand they brought in. But still, the Vortex did really well. Now, here's my assessment, because I started with a Garrett AT Pro, then I had a Garrett AT Max, and then I had a Garrett Apex. And the Garrett Apex was the first one with multi-frequency. So my feeling on this is, if you have a Garrett AT Pro, a Garrett AT Max, or a Garrett AT Gold, the Vortex is the machine you're going to want to upgrade to. Especially, like we're using the VX9. You can go to the other ones, but if you're going to spend the money, I would just go to the VX9 right out of the gate. And it's not that much money, really. And you get the full multi-frequency. It's a lot lighter. It's got the backlit screen. It's got the collapsible shaft. So I would say at this point, because I had an Apex and I wasn't real thrilled with it, but I almost preferred my Garrett AT Max more than the Apex. But I can tell you this: anybody that's got one of the AT models, you won't be disappointed upgrading to the Vortex. Let me just say that.
Okay. Well,
and it's lighter. I mean, it's a lot lighter too.
Like I said, I've got a couple in stock. I haven't got a chance to break one out and use it. And I'm almost thinking, you were talking, there have been some problems with the download upgrades. So is that kind of specific to one computer, or is it just a random thing that's happening? What do you know about that?
I think it's a random thing that happened. Because when I upgraded it, it had no problems at all. When Gary upgraded it, he had a problem. So they're aware of it, and I'm assuming that 2.7 that George was just mentioning probably fixed that. So there's no more issues with that. I haven't heard of any more issues, but I don't know, Chuck. I just know the 2.5 fixed the beach issues that we had, and I'm assuming the 2.7 fixed that issue of upgrading. But it'll work with any computer. You just go on there, and they'll tell you how to do it. But you can go on any computer and plug it in and upgrade it.
Troy Johnson's asking, is it all three wrapped in one?
Well, when you say all three, are you when you mean like AT Pro, AT Max, AT Gold? Is
Or
that what
Max, I don't know. That's the question he put up there. And I just thought I'd throw it at you. If it's all the three most recent ones kind of wrapped in, it's upgraded. I know this is an expandable detector. This is how it was touted, that when they come up with something else, you can purchase a complete upgrade of the detector.
Well, for the price differential, it's just me personally. I'm just saying, for the price differential, $569 for a VX9.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Why would you not just go ahead and get the VX9? I mean, yes, you can get the VX5 or the VX7 and then pay money to upgrade later. But why do that? Just pay a few extra dollars and, get the VX9. Now, as far as is it all 3-in-1, I think what it is all the things that people wanted in the AT Max and the AT Pro and all those is now included in it. And what I mean by that is, it's got the collapsible shaft, it's got the backlit screen, it's got the multi-frequency. In fact, the VX9 now I never used the whites, so this is not something that I knew about. I had other people tell me that Garrett has included what looks to be a feature from the whites that would actually tell you on the screen. There's 3 different levels, visual levels, that will tell you, okay, this is a solid, solid silver or in that range, or it'll tell you that it's iffy signal in a range, and then it'll tell you definitely iron.
Maybe.
So it has those 3. And they said people have told me that is a feature that they got from whites when they bought whites.
That does sound a lot like the old white Signograph or even the V3i.
Yep, V3i.
Right, that's what people were telling me. Now, I'm laughing because people were asking me which VX9 I got. And just so you guys know, I got the left-handed version of the VX9.
So, and since you're using it and you're upfront with everything going on, and I've talked to KG, and KG tells me he's liking his, but Garrett's always upfront. We got a little problem, we're getting it fixed. Good. There's some guys out there that are, the bashers, the naysayers before it even came out, and Garrett builds quality equipment. They stand behind it much better than some of the other companies.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed talking to Garrett Support. They do take good care of you. Now, I got to give a shout out to Debbie Smokowski from Mind Lab also. I mean, she's always been great to us personally. I've never had problems with Mind Lab support either. And now I've heard other people, and a few years back they had some problems, but the good thing about all these manufacturers today is they're all pushing each other to get better, right? Chuck, you and I talked about this. They're all pushing each other to get better. And, Mind Lab, the MANTICORE is a great machine. Mind Lab's coming out with some lower end machines. My granddaughter has a XTREME, an XTREME Elite, and she loves that. Matt Howell helped me get that one. We did a little trading, horse swapping. So she's using that one. But, it's just depends on what your individual preference is. I'm just thinking about all the thousands of people that have an 18 model. We're looking for something to upgrade to from Garrett. And I think the Vortex is a great machine to upgrade to.
Yeah.
For those folks.
Like I've said before, I mean, people have to give the machine time to show itself out in the field. Let the machine give a chance to shine rather than just looking at a picture and, I'm a self-proclaimed expert. It's inferior. Look at the finds that Ringy and KG both have been making with them. I'm sure it's quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Mark, and letting us talk about it, because there's so many out there that are just naysayers from the beginning, and one even did a show on it. He's got a continual show, and I'm not going to bring it up because it'll just make KG mad. But, well, they don't give him a fair shake. They don't.
Yes, but anybody that knows also knows that particular person you're alluding to is biased to begin with.
Yes, we know it. We know that.
And not biased towards Garrett.
Right. So, anyway.
Well, I have a little bit of bias to Garrett because, it was my first machine, and I'm friends with KG and Ringy and some other folks. But, I work with a lot of the different manufacturers, and I'm trying to be honest, and I was really wanting something to upgrade my AT Max to from Garrett, and quite honestly, for me, it was not the Apex. I did have an Apex, but that was not the machine that I felt like was upgrading for me. The Vortex is, and I can tell you, I hunted with Murray, and I've hunted Kadoha, and I hunted with Murray on some land in Louisiana, and we did really, really well there. With all the artifacts and relics that we were finding, and KG has as well, and he's done really well with his, and so. I know that it's a good machine, and I know you won't be disappointed.
Maybe Mark, you had to be along with KG to help him along. Somebody's got.
And I did mention this back when they released Apex, was that I thought that what we were seeing was Garrett dipping their toe in the water of the simultaneous multi-frequency industry. The simultaneous multi-frequency game, and what we were going to see moving forward from there is they were going to tweak and expound on that technology, and eventually we would probably see it worked into something along the lines of the AT series or a new series. And it looks like that's exactly what we're starting to see. They've been able to play around with the technology a little bit and go, okay, now we want to take it this direction, and it's time to really start to refine things.
Yeah. Now, yeah, and I agree with you 100%, Josh. Now, when I was using the Apex, I had other people that had more experience with the Apex telling me the best way to use it. And in that case, it wasn't running multi-frequency all the time. And I didn't realize that. Maybe sometimes it was better just to do single frequency. Whereas where I see the Vortex is you could probably run multi-frequency all the time. Now, you may not want to. You may want to go into a mode of just a single frequency for like fine gold or something like that. But it's all I'm saying is that they finally got it right with a Vortex. Now they got it right with a Vortex with the new updates, and that's the best part of being able to do computer updates is if they find something that needs to be tweaked, they can put out a new update and fix that. And of course, all the other manufacturers are doing that too. And that's a great thing about, the new technology is everything now can be upgraded through software.
And that's what makes the Vortex so interesting in the first place is the fact that this is the first time, to the best of my knowledge, and I've been around it for a while, that any manufacturer in the industry has offered a machine that not only is it updatable online, but you can also purchase an upgrade. So you can turn a 5 into a 9.
Right. Exactly. But again, I'm going to encourage everybody to buy the 9 right out of the gate.
Maybe in the future it could be a 9 moving up to a 12.
There you go.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
Between the 5 and the 9, I mean, if you decide you're going to buy the 5 and decide to pay for the upgrade later, basically that is the cost difference between the 5 and the 9 is the cost of the upgrades.
Yeah. Another thing that several people have mentioned, a couple of things that they mentioned in the chat, Brandon brought this up, and I think it's a really good point. I mean, the coil has a big part of this too, being able to change to a smaller coil or a bigger coil, the coil that you're using. Now, personally, I've gotten to the point where I like using the smaller coil about 90% of the time now, unless I'm actually on the beach and I'm using the big coil. But most of the time I'm using the smaller coil. And the other thing is weight. All of these machines now, I noticed Janet Chapman was talking about the weight. My lab picks that. Garrett's fixed that. They've all fixed that pretty much. I can tell you the weight of this is significantly less than, the AT series. Different form factor, different kind of less weight in the shaft overall. So if you're upgrading to one of these newer machines, they're all a lot lighter. Nothing I don't think is as light as the XP Deus, but they're pretty close. They're all pretty close, and I don't think you would be disappointed with the weight.
No, it's light. It's very close.
And I guess you would be a good one to bring this up with, Mark. I know that obviously you've used the Pro and the Max and the Vortex. I imagine the ergonomics are a little better on the Vortex. It's a little better balanced because my own experience with the AT series, they were a little nose heavy.
They are definitely better. They're more ergonomic. They're better balanced. They're lighter. All of those aspects of it have been improved. So
Nice.
George just noted that your unit's 2.5 pounds.
Okay.
59. Yep, 2.5 pounds.
There you go. Well, you can't get much lighter than that.
No,
Maybe
I mean,
200
you're
kilograms.
talking just a few ounces more than a quart of milk.
Right. Yeah. So, with the new updates and all, I think this is, it pretty much takes the worry out of buying it. So if anybody's thinking about it, this is a good time to go out and upgrade.
Right. Right.
And if you call KG, he'll give you one for free.
Oh. You heard it here first. How many you got, KG? If not, you can buy one from me. There you go.
George, just go ahead, note to self, change my number.
Anybody that calls me, I always forward my number to him, so he gets all my calls anyway.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, Garrett makes a good product. They stand behind their product. If there's a glitch in the beginning, they'll fix it. I know they will. And enough said, and we'll figure it out. And I hope you do well with it more on the beach. But every year it seems that beach down there is getting sanded in deeper. They just keep dumping loads on.
Yeah, not naturally at that.
I've got a pertinent question for you, Mark. Where do they get the sand to put on the beach? They're digging it inland and taking it out? Are they sucking it out of the ocean? And
they're sucking it out from North Florida. They're sucking it out of the ocean and bringing it in on trucks and then dumping it down on our beaches down on the, well, not just our beaches. I mean, St. Augustine, I heard was, and I haven't been up there recently, but I heard St. Augustine was just as bad as what we're seeing. And for the people that haven't heard us talking about it, so in Florida right now, and I've been, in Florida pretty much my whole life, you could drive along the beach, you could detect on the beach.
Yep.
After a storm, you could find some really, some old coins, depending on where you're at, or old relics or coins or rings or whatever. So 2 years or 3 years ago, they started a new program in Florida called the Beach Replenishment Program. And what they do is they dredge the sand in from offshore, bring it in on pipes. I'm assuming they're bringing it on pipes. They load it up on truck. They bring it out. And I have a timeshare in Ormond Beach, which is just north of Daytona. Out in front of where our timeshare is, there was 5 feet of sand, soft sand, above where the natural sand line was. And if you have a 4-wheel drive, you would assume that you could just drive on the beach 4-wheel and you'd have no problem. Here's the problem. 4-wheel drives were going out and the sand was so soft, they were literally resting on the frame of the truck for the 4-wheel drive. So even if you had a 4-wheel drive, it was sinking so far down in, your tires weren't even getting any traction at all. So they were all having to be pulled out. So what happened was There were no cars on the beach. The county is losing all that money. People aren't, if you're not staying there, you're probably not going out on the beach. And it was hard to walk. It was hard. The only things that I was finding were down at the water's edge, actually in about a foot of water, maybe right off, right at low tide. I'd go down, and I actually found a wheat penny. I didn't find any silver, but you could tell that it had been there a long time. It was about 12 inches down. It was in about a foot of water. Used my scoop to get it out, but the problem with the beaches now in Florida is they're just terrible. And it goes all the way down to South Florida where Terry Shannon is. So everybody's complaining. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's a real problem on the east coast of Florida right now. I see Dan Graham just came in as well.
I see Dan in there. How you doing, brother?
Of course, he's on the southwest coast of Florida, so he's not running into this. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
Dan just said happy birthday, KG. That was just a day or so ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're getting old, KG. So no, it just seems like, and I know they've been replenishing. You never know when they're getting it. Are they pulling the sand up? Are they out near where the wrecks are and they're running it through a strainer and loading it up on the barge? Probably.
And the funny thing about that, Chuck, is if I remember correctly, I was told some years ago when the beach replenishment program started, they are, like Mark said, sucking that up off the bottom of the ocean floor. But
Yes,
that
sir.
is going through screened dredges.
Yep. Guaranteed they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of course, they would never let them do it down where the 1715 fleet is. They have to do it up where there's no known wrecks. So, and it's all soft sand. So it's just
yeah, they can't. There's people paying big bucks to have those claims to the Florida.
Yeah.
Have a good night, KG. He just checked out. So anyway,
well, I guess the last thing I was going to talk about, and then I don't know how long you're going to go, but I'm finally going to, I told Chuck this early, I'm finally going to get to go to England, protect in England.
Oh, Mark's going to enjoy himself there.
Mm-hmm.
So the story is, I was going to go to England last year. It didn't work out. And my wife said, Gail said, you're not going to England without me. Well, I'm not, it's like, how am I going to go to England and metal detect? I mean, she's not going to be happy. But anyway, so we worked it out. I'm going to go metal detecting for 3.5, 4 days. Then we're going to go to London for 4 days and see all the museums. And then we're going to go take a tour of England for a week. So I'm going to get a little bit of metal detecting in. I'm going to go spend a few days at the museums, British Museum, and some of the other museums in London. And then we're going to do the tour. Now, again, with Gail having a history of, her ancestors coming over on the Mayflower.
That's cool.
Her history goes back to England and beyond. And so there's places that she wants to go see in Scotland and England and some of the ancestral homes up there. And so we're finally going to get to do that.
Well, I can't wait to see the pictures of that trip. You are both just going to absolutely thoroughly enjoy yourself.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out to Ken Cunliffe. He's the one that turned me on to this place called the Butley Priory, and it's where American Digger goes to every year. It just so happens we're not going with American Digger; we're just going on our own.
Yeah,
to the same place, and it's in Sussex, England, and they say they take really good care of you. And I'm fine with just doing 4 days of detecting and then going and seeing the sites.
Yeah, they do take very good care. I've heard from a few people that have been over at that one.
Swansea wants to know if it's the England pub crawl.
Well, it could be, but it won't be for us. I think if you go to Ireland, it's a pub crawl. It's a pub crawl.
Yep. That Irish, Scottish thing, I have to get north. I've been to England 3 times. I'd like to get up into Scotland, go all the way to the northern tip, and go to this castle our family is from. So that may happen, but yours sounds like a great adventure. You're going to do, did you say 4 days of detecting and then 2 weeks of travel?
Well, it's 4 days of detecting, 4 days in London, and then 1 week of traveling, touring from the London area, going all the way up to Scotland. Seeing all the ruins. The what do they call those ruins there? The Stonehenge. Going up into Scotland, and then coming back around to London, and then flying out of London.
One thing you might want to try: go to Bath, England.
I think that's on the itinerary.
Bath is phenomenal. Roman baths that still exist in the only hot spring in England, and it's cool. That is a tour that you won't forget.
Yeah, I think that's on the itinerary. And we use a lot of people. I don't know if anybody knows this, but for over 25 years, I've used a company called VacationsToGo.com. VacationsToGo.com is the largest cruise wholesaler in the world.
Okay.
And they started offering land tours. So we went to them to sign up for our land cruise. They work with all the different tour companies, and they do everything for you. You just tell them what you want to do, and they set it all up. So VacationsToGo.com, if you're interested, cruises, land tours, whatever. They're a great company to work with.
Good.
And Swansea said, there's a Stonehenge in New Hampshire as well. Come see me, Mark. Well, Brandon, now that you're back in the saddle, I definitely need to come back up and see you, or I need to come see you for the first time.
It has been ages since Brandon and I have seen each other, but it sure was. It was just an absolutely phenomenal time getting to speak with him and catch up a little bit on the phone a few weeks ago. We were both very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I look forward to catching up with you, Brandon. So let's talk soon.
Yeah. Anyway, hi, Janet. Hey, Greg, I didn't see you in there. Apollo, how you doing, buddy?
Greg was in there. And his wife.
Cool.
So that little wrench by Bill Marsh's name, what does that mean? It means he's an admin?
Yes, that's one of our mods.
Yeah, moderate.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised he hasn't thrown me off yet.
Well, they can only moderate the chat, not the show.
Right. Oh, okay. All right.
So you're safe.
We try to stay under their radar on the show, though. Try.
Yeah.
ORH, I have the power, LOL.
By the way, I have to give a shout out to Bill Hayes. Bill Hayes always takes care of me at the American Digger shows. And Bill and I were actually judges this year for the American Digger show in South Carolina. So we had to fight it out in a back room to decide who was going to be the winner. So that was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, being a judge was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. But Bill always takes good care of me.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Sounds like a good time, Mark.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
And I do have to say, it has been a while since I've talked to Terry as well. Uh, I'm very pleased to hear his YouTube. Everything's going so well for him, and we may have to get him back on the show again sometime
Yeah.
here soon, because it has been a while.
Been a while since I've seen Terry, about 3 years.
Now, when you
No,
when
I
you
mean
have
Terry Carter.
Terry Carter, not Terry Shannon.
Well,
You
we do have to
definitely-
get Terry Shannon back on too.
When you had Terry Shannon on, did you have Fred with him? Fred Deal?
No.
Okay, we can talk about that later. But he's hooked up with another guy down in South Florida that has written several books, and they make a great team on your show. You definitely need to get Terry and Fred on there together. Fred's got a lot, and he's written a book on the 1715 fleet, but he's also been doing some stuff up in North Dakota where they had some Indian wars up there, and he was out west last year and just Fred. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Fred Banky. Yeah, he wrote a book, and I'm trying to remember something deal, but it's Fred Banky. Thanks, Dan. And Fred and Terry do a really good talk together, so you might want to get both of them, and then definitely get Terry Carter on. Terry's got, obviously he's got some amazing stories. He's got some news stories. He can tell you all about the gathering. And what I would suggest is, after they make the date for the gathering, bring Terry Carter on to talk about the gathering and some of his news stories, because
Cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I mean Terry's always got some great stories, and he can tell you stories as the day is long, basically.
Yeah, I can. And the book that Fred Banky wrote was called The Real Deal, but it's spelled Reale, like a real deal, but The Real Deal. That's
Nice.
his book. So
I like it.
yeah, very, very interesting gentleman. And he and Terry are work very closely together. Well, I guess I got to run too. It's almost 9:30, but I don't know if there's anything else we need to, you wanted to ask me, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, buddy, on short notice. And I was glad to get a phone call from you today. I hadn't got to talk to you for a while. And hopefully you make it up there. You get Gary and tell him we'd love to have you both up to swing in the summer, or swing in the spring, however they want to advertise it. But it's swing in the summer since it's on the 21st of June. But do you have a...
Was that Josh?
Yeah. That was,
Yeah, we're swinging into something anyway.
yeah, we're going to have a good time. And
we'll look forward to coming up then.
Yeah, be great. KG and Ringy and you guys, quite the team together. So we're looking forward to it, my friend. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, thanks for having me. And y'all have a great week. And great to see everybody. And again, it feels like a whole home week. Thanks for having me.
There you go. And anytime.
All right. Take care.
All the best to you, Gail, and the family.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
Say hi to Gail for me and your granddaughter.
I will.
Have a great night. Well, that was a good show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marc Hoover. And KG's dropping in as a surprise. That was cool, too. Swansea, good to see you back in the fold here, buddy. And
Swan, big surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that it was unexpected, because I've known for a couple of weeks that he could be showing up in the chat any given time. I figured, well, I'm not going to forecast it. We'll just wait and let everybody be surprised when he hits the chat.
Right.
There are a lot of names in there that he may not recognize. There are very many names in there that he does.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to try and keep warm over here. Bill, it was 50 degrees here today, buddy. And it's supposed to be that way throughout the week. So, hopefully it gets over and melts all your snow.
And 70 in Florida.
Yeah.
So it's around the corner. It's coming.
Yeah.
Trying to hang in there.
Swansea, yeah, don't be a stranger, buddy. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here, Josh. All the rest of you have a great night. And we might be able to get out detecting if we get a couple weeks of this 50-degree stuff and 60.
Yeah. We got to get rid of the snow and ice first.
Yeah, it's going
very quick.
It was a swamp out there a bit today, but it's going. So thanks for having me there, Josh. Everybody, if you're looking for the new Vortec, give me a holler. I've got them in stock. We'll talk to you later, all.
All right.
All right.
See
you.
And then there was one. Quite an interesting show. Definitely. Marc's always got some great stories to share when he has the time to come on and discuss such things. Like I said, have adventure, will travel. Can't put it any better than that, really. He is a very, very busy gentleman. But for those who may have missed the first 20 minutes of the show, 30 minutes, whatever, drop back, check it out. Interesting information. That's all I can say. Past that, we've still got some things going on. We're trying to get buttoned up, tie up the loose ends, and hopefully smooth sailing as we continue on. Still a few more weeks, though, of uncertainty. We'll see how it all goes, though, and I do so very much hope everyone in the chat did give Swansea a very warm welcome back. It was definitely good to see you in there tonight, my friend. Until the next one, if you enjoyed the show, make sure and throw us a like. It does help the algorithm, as much as I hate to say it. Obviously, when we had to begin the mass exodus from where we were prior and try to keep up podcast distribution and all of that for those who do still follow the audio side of the podcast, it has taken a little while. It's been a rough restart, but it looks like we're finally starting to catch some ground again, which is a good thing. For everyone out there, stay warm, get out there and find it if you can, and hopefully, as long as the creeks don't rise, we'll see you on the next one.
We sure are glad you found us here tonight. Thanks for dropping by and joining in. If you like metal detecting, treasure hunting, gold prospecting, or even entertaining discussion, check us out Wednesdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, on your favorite podcast distribution services.